Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Celine and here at Blockade we are bridging heaven on earth through soulful systems. We are here to create containers for healing, self-worth, and embodied wisdom. I will teach you that wealth is not rushed, it is remembered, to lead with beauty, with depth, and with devotion. I hope you like my little mystery school. We're going to talk everything about esoteric things, about technology, and everything under the sun. In today's topic, I want to first talk about time, ontology, and why we experience burnout. This is going to be a very packed podcast today, so hope you stick around. Grab your favorite drink and let's get cozy. It's kind of rainy here where I'm at currently, and I have my candles, I have my tea, but I want to share a lot of things that has been on my mind lately, and maybe I can share this with you. So I first want to say that if you right now are feeling like you're behind, you're not sure where you're exactly at, or you're not sure at all what's happening, you're not lazy, you're not behind. Maybe we're just a little out of rhythm of the real time. I first want to talk about ontology. I know it's a big word, but hear me out. This is my thesis on why artists and neo-polymaths will dominate the world again in this modern Renaissance era that we are in. So, what is ontology and why does it matter? Ontology is the fundamental ways of being. This is how it shapes how people create in the world. When Earth started, it was a bunch of raw materials full of trees, dirt. It was unlivable, but somehow humans, through our innovation, through our imagination, we learned to build fire, and our ancestors used this to be able to build tools, shelter. Everything is a conjecture. Everything started from an idea. So today, we have all these endless tools, yet something is still missing. We're missing that spark of creativity that turns this raw potential into meaning. How do you bring the intangible into the material world? In the hot and arid zones of Middle East, particularly in the Fertile Crescent, they had a lot of dry lands, water was scarce, agriculture was unpredictable, the sun was harsh and unforgiving, so the crops needed constant tending. You had to plan ahead meticulously or you will die. During the Mesopotamian era, they would go out on these missions to get food. They developed the time-keeping systems to track flood, crop cycles essential for survival. But survival demanded structure. This was the birth of a lot of the priesthoods, the kingships, and the first divine right to rule narratives. This created a necessity for control, structure, planning, which eventually led to the invention of the calendar. This is where the concept of time as linear started. The rise of agricultural-based labor hierarchies was the beginning of patriarchy because land, labor, and time needed to be controlled. This was the birthplace of hustle equals survival. God became the lawgiver, and heaven was earned through hard labor. They preferred to have sons because they work in the fields, and then the women just stayed indoors and took care of the family. In contrast with the tropical rhythms, such as in South Asia, the river systems of South America, many of these coastal indigenous villages of Oceania and Africa, nature provided this constant renewal. They didn't feel the need to hoard because they had plenty of abundance there. You didn't need to own land because it was shared within the community. You could rest in the earth and not race against her. People lived in moon, tides, and rainfall not by the clocks. They followed the cyclical time, which is the Kairos and not the Kronos. So their culture was more of a ritual, a story, or cooperation. They valued more of the community or play and listening to nature. They built ceremonies. And now, fast forward, here we are. You can't stay consistent, you feel scattered, and you're undisciplined. You're living in the Kronos time, meaning the mechanical time, not Kairos, which is the sacred natural time. You're trying to force your creative flow into empire rhythms. You are seasonal. You're an intuitive creator trying to produce inside a grid meant to suppress the rhythm. Let's go back and time travel to Rome. Rome was the inception point of many things until today. We're still using their systems and tools that was designed for that time period. Rome didn't just conquer land, they conquered time. They instituted the Julian calendar, later redefined into the Gregorian calendar by Pope Gregory VIII in 1582. But this was just not a calendar. It programmed how humans relate to time. Ancient cultures followed the lunar cycles. They had the Mayan Solkin. They had the 13 calendars, Egyptian decans. They had the systems rooted in natural cosmic movements. By the time Rome's calendar sliced time into mechanical intervals, we had the 12 months, the 7 days a week, the 365 days a year. Why? To regulate labor, taxes, military campaigns. Every time there was a full moon, everybody knew that it was time to pay taxes. It was a tool for imperial rhythm. When you control time, you control the consciousness of the collective. When the empire started to spread to the west, this created Judaism, Christianity, Roman Catholic, agriculture, capitalism, industrialism. The West inherited this myth of mastery. To live is to labor and work hard. To rest is to regress. To create is to conquer. Then the colonial machine took this even further. They ripped people from seasonal time and forced linear calendars onto circular cultures. They called leisure as laziness or abundance as primitive. This fractured how people feel every day. This is why we're now asking ourselves, why can I grind like others? Why do I feel more alive when I'm next to the ocean or rivers or forests when I'm under the moonlight? Why does capitalism feel so jarring? It feels like an exile in my body. Because your DNA is encoded for ceremony and not for competition. Your nervous system does not respond to profit, but it responds to presence and to community. Why is it that when you control time, you control realities? Nowadays, society conflates hours with productivity, but the true impact lies in our output, the quality, and not the hustle culture. It is unsustainable to be hustling all the time. There are also people online that are promoting this toxic productivity, but we just gotta let them, because maybe they haven't experienced debilitating burnout that you're just in a freeze state. The hours that you put in does not equal to the value you put out. This is one of the greatest distortions of late stage capitalism. People think that if you clock in 80 hours a week, it means that you're being productive. But that's the side effect from the industrialization, when humans were treated like machines. The intuitive entrepreneur is not a machine. They are like a tuning fork. They can sense what is going around them, and the quality of their output is born in moments of stillness, connection, inspiration, and not just grinding and hustling. Slowness is not laziness. Slowness is sacred. Philosophers call this contemplatio. When you are just savoring the mundane, maybe you're just walking or doing leisurely things, then an idea sparks. I was born and raised in Asia, and we had siesta time, and there was plenty of good life and work balance. We would sit and eat and chat for hours. Same in the coastal parts of Europe like Italy and Greece. Our climates shaped our consciousness, and ecology shapes economy, which then shapes culture, values, and mythologies, and this births entire civilizations. Time is a perception filter. Your reality is made of how you perceive events unfolding in time. When you change your relationship to time, either slowing it down or speeding it up, you are reframing the past, and you can shift how you interpret reality. This is already proven. When you heal trauma, you don't just change the past event, you change your orientation of time. And that changes the emotional reality you live in. That's why we stay in a high vibrational state, because that will result in the reality that matches that vibration. When you control time, you control realities. Your ego and your identity is constructed through a storyline. That story has a beginning, middle, and end. It's time bound. When you master time, for example, you're removing the urgency, you're collapsing timelines, or maybe quantum leaping. You disrupt the old storyline and create a new one. You are changing the feedback loop, you're changing your patterns, so your reality will switch to whatever is resonant with your current state. He who controls the narrative arc controls the identity. In quantum physics terms, all possibilities exist simultaneously. All of these potential timelines exist as probabilities. By collapsing a specific timeline, you choose which version of reality becomes real. This is the real way to manifest and not just the wishful thinking of visualizing. The observer will collapse the wave function and you decide which reality to anchor by the choices you make in time. When your body, your mind, and your soul, and you start clearing patterns, you have a vision, you have like an overall vision of who do I want to be, then it's just natural, you will shift to become that person. True power exists in the now. When you root yourself in the present moment outside of linear time, you access all timelines simultaneously. From this vantage point, you can move between realities without being bound to a specific past or projected future, because you're just here in the moment. Systems, empires, and control structures run on artificial time. These are the inorganic timelines: calendars, deadlines, clocks. These tools, daylight savings, these are tools used by systems to regulate consciousness. When you reclaim your own rhythm, your inner time, you step out of the matrix and into sovereign reality creation. Moloch feeds on stolen time, but the awakened soul reclaims it. You can kick Moloch out of your reality. Time equals reality's operating system. When you change how you perceive, use, or move through time, you rewrite the entire reality field. The empire gave us Kronos. This is the linear measurable time, but the soul moves with Kairos. This is the sacred, ripe timing. Many initiates understood that time is a spiral, not linear. The year was not just a calendar, but it was a ritual of becoming, because there's opening and closings of these portals. So we have equinoxes, solstices, eclipses. They weren't just events, but they were gateways in our consciousness. When you do the sign of the cross, it is an intersection of the solstice and the equinox, because we are in sync with nature. When we live by our corporate calendars or fiscal quarters, 9 to 5s, we are dislocated from the Kairos, from the deeper time of your soul. You are seasonal. When you map your energy, your rhythms, daily, monthly, lunar, you create this ritual calendar. For example, if you do the moon cycles, you have rest phases. It's a lot better because you are in tune with the natural rhythm of the planet. There are two types of entrepreneurs. There's the strategic mind, the type A, logical, metrics driven. They build empires with spreadsheets and 5-year plans. And then there's the intuitive spirit. We're more seasonal, fluid, intentional, and we move with uncertainty, prioritizing our quality over speed. Both think very differently. One is linear, systematic, while the other one is spatial, connecting the dots. When we can distinguish between doing to dominate and doing to express, between strategy as control and intuition as coherence, that's deep architecture of the psyche we're touching. This greatly affects how you create. For example, your surrounding is your nervous system. That's why we design accordingly. You're not just scattered, but you're overstimulated by all of these ugly systems that does not serve your nervous system. Beauty is medicine and space is pedagogy. Now let's talk about neuroarchitecture 101. When you notice designs in a building, you see harsh lines, no sunlight, that causes your nervous system to dysregulate. However, when you see curved forms, they had a lot of dome-like structures before. There's plenty of light, greenery, more coherence and calm. A lot of the old buildings, they would always have this like sunlit roofs where there's plenty of light that's naturally coming in. In Renaissance, they would build these cathedrals, not just a place for worship, but to remind people of the sublime. This evoked a lot of beauty and reverence that connects us back into our deeper creativity. These Renaissance domes, they're cultivated wonder, art, and music. Now we have a lot of this brutalism where the empires cement over our psyche. Meanwhile, modern buildings now are very brutalist. It lacks the beauty because when they're building it, they often just rush it. Your studio, as an artist of life, your studio is your temple, your desk, your cafe, your hammock, your altars, whatever it is. That is your space to create. My favorite place to read and study, I like to go to the rivers. I go to cafes or sit in my hammock. That's ecological intelligence. That's me synchronizing with the natural rhythms of the earth and letting my nervous system relax, receive insight. Design signals your psyche to feel. And if you notice, there are modern tech giants now like Google. They have these play zones to spark wonder. Why? Because play dissolves burnout. It invites the mind to think outside the box and to discover. Google has this ball pits in their break room, not just because it's cool, but because the inner child is the original creative director. Play is so important. Like, I can't even stress it enough. Neuroarchitecture examines how architectural design affects our brain function and emotional states. In spatial design, environments with low ceilings and minimal natural light can elevate our stress levels, while spaces with ample natural light and higher ceilings promote relaxation and well-being. Monotonous architectural designs can lead to sensory deprivation. This triggers our fight or flight responses. In contrast, when we engage in varied environments, this stimulates our brain, enhancing mood and cognitive function. Incorporating a lot of these natural elements like greeneries, if you have flowers in your desk, this is shown to reduce stress and improve mental health. I like to think of myself as an intuitive entrepreneur and an expansive thinker. I'm always cultivating ideas. I don't necessarily obsess over details, but I think about what is the creative way to get from point A to point B. I dream while I'm awake. We need both archetypes. The strategist grounds the ideas, and intuitives color outside the lines. Imagine a world where our offices have big gardens or boardrooms have blank walls, where the metrics coexist with the daydreams. Then our minds would be a lot more balanced. When we have music that invokes emotions, that is how we are originally wired. And I think that we're all intuitive creators trying to produce inside a grid meant to suppress your rhythm. You have been colonized by hustle. You've confused labor with worth and internalized empire's metric of value. Play isn't a distraction. It's your divine intelligence trying to reboot your system. When you create these temples of play, or you have toys in your desk, whatever it is, just to spark that inner child, if you have one object that reminds you of joy, you assign a creative block with just nonsense. So what are some things you can do to spark this creativity more? Go on an artist date, scribble, go on walks with no goals. Just create from there. You don't have to publish it, just feed your spirit, not just your audience. For example, one of my clients, Flor, she started creating her Aphrodite altar, and we were ritualizing beauty and flowing, tapping into these archetypes. My other client, Danny, bought her stuffed toy to sleep with so she can feel closer to her inner child's play. I also have mine. I have a bear and a swan. Value isn't profit, it's presence, creativity, and coherence. We are here to awaken new models of value and sovereignty rooted in soul work, decentralization, and mythic embodiment. Your energy is the currency of the future. Now let's talk about our hearts. Our hearts has 4 directions of reality processing. The heart has 4 chambers, like 4 directions. The right atrium receives what is the truth of what life brings. The right ventricle sends the truth to the body. This is your integration. The left atrium receives what could be the oxygenated potential of spirit. And then your left ventricle delivers the potential with force and direction. This is your embodiment. Light in and light out. Your heart is the crossroads between the seen and unseen, the now and the possible. This is your compass of flow designed to keep you in alignment with both presence and purpose. I also find that the heart is a neutralizing agent. So when you have really high voltage of frequency coming in through you, your heart can help neutralize it, and then you can spread it around your body. When Jesus' heart was pierced on the cross, it wasn't just a man dying, it was the heart of time being broken open. Since then, we have been living the timeline that's out of sync with nature, no longer lunar, no longer cyclical, no longer sacred. It's like the Gregorian calendar yanked us out of Earth's rhythm and into the empire time. This is the false matrix. So now, every time you see a cross, it's not just about martyrdom. The cross is very misunderstood. It's about reminding you to repair your rhythm, to realign with the heart of time, to feel the earth breathe again. There's this moment where Jesus, or Yeshua, transforms Simon into Peter. And what does he say? You are the rock, upon you I build a church. That wasn't just renaming, that was word alchemy. He literally changed reality with his voice. He transmuted identity with a sentence, and that's why real alchemy is changing perception. You're shifting timelines, rewriting the code. So yeah, your voice is extremely powerful. Your voice is like a command, and your perception is that sacred. And maybe the real philosopher's stone was your rhythm all along. When your heart and your mind are in sync, your nervous system enters coherence. This is a measurable electromagnetic state where your thoughts and emotions speak the same language. This creates a clear signal that you become a tuning fork for truth. What you think, feel, and attract, you become more congruent. So when you alter time, you are out of sync, thinking one thing and feeling another. Your field becomes chaotic. This is disharmony. It confuses your nervous system because it fractures your intuition, and it magnetizes situations that feel off or misaligned. Your perception of reality becomes warped because you're now broadcasting incoherence. So it's not matching up with your reality. The world doesn't respond to your thoughts alone, it responds to the emotional rhythm behind them. That's why you're not able to manifest the reality that you desire if your mind and your heart is not in coherence to the reality that's showing up in your life. The heart is the largest electromagnetic field in the body. It is 60 times stronger electrically and 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain. Your heart creates this field, communicates with you, everything around you, with people, animals, and even plants. So when your heart is in coherence, you are in deep love of everything and everyone. You entrain others into being more regulated, more in a truthful state without even saying a word, because they just feel your aura, they feel your resonance. Now, what are the things that break your coherence? For example, betraying your truth, forcing the mind to override the body's knowing, reacting instead of responding. You are holding repressed emotions. And then what restores coherence? When you move slowly, you have conscious breath work. feeling of gratitude, even for 20 seconds. You're tuning in and speaking your truth. You're bringing mind into service to heart. Instead, our mind is doing all of the work. We should bring the mind with the heart. Lead with our hearts, then the mind will follow. The philosopher's stone is not just a literal alchemical substance, it is a metaphysical symbol of transmutation. We are turning lead, the base self, into gold, the divine self. The stone is just a symbol of inner sovereignty. So when the empire controlled time, money, and knowledge, they hide the stone. They externalize power, so we forget our inner authority. The real alchemy is not just about elements, but about time, perception, and soul. When your perception of reality is distorted, your higher mind, which is the bigger aspect of your soul, cannot fully come in. Your communication with the divine is choppy. So, how can we reclaim value? How can we have these sacred economies again and more into grid working? Then comes blockchain. Blockchain is a distributed immutable ledger. This is kind of like the digital philosopher's stone in embryonic form. This is actually a channeled technology. I'm super excited because when you can understand the blockchain, it is a lot like the quantum field and everything will make more sense to you. It mimics how the cosmos moves. Each reality is a node that connects. They're like little blocks. By the time you ascend, you will notice it's mostly zeros and ones, and it's all kind of like a chain, and each patterns connect with one another to awaken new models of value and sovereignty. When we are rooted in soul work, decentralization, and mythic embodiment, your energy is the currency. We have been trained to trade our life force for survival, but value is changing, sovereignty is rising. I want to talk more about Bitcoin because I got a lot of questions about it. The blockchain is a distributed immutable ledger. Bitcoin emerged outside centralized system. Its Genesis block literally contained the message, January 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. It's not just about currency, it's about this parallel time stream outside the Gregorian Empire central bank timeline. This was one of my little projects with my higher self. For some reason, they uprooted me from healthcare and they were like, now you have to kind of learn about crypto. Bitcoin is not just tech, it is a mythic artifact. This coin cannot be inflated, cannot be manipulated. It's bound to these very sophisticated mathematical purity and incorruptible rhythm. Coin mirrors the collective unconscious. It reintroduces the idea of trustless truth, a decentralization of power, and a potential gateway outside of the empire's matrix. And if you've noticed, within the markets, especially in crypto, it's not just rational, they are emotional. They respond to fear, FOMO, hope, hysteria, shame, greed, tribalism, and everything that lives in the shadow of our psyche. So just like our dreams, the markets speak in symbols, waves, and volatility. Coin is especially unique because it is decentralized, meaning it is not controlled by a central planner. It is coded, meaning it is incorruptible truth ledger. There is only 21 million will ever exist. It is rooted in scarcity but projected into myth. When people panic sell, it's rarely logical. It's a somatic response. And so when people have the fear of missing out, FOMO in, it is a limbic trigger. These are not markets in the Wall Street sense, but they are mass rituals of belief. Think of it like this. Price is a feeling, charts are like dreams, and volatility is like the collective mood swing. So every spike and crash is a surge of unconscious emotion moving like weather across the global nervous system. This is why watching Bitcoin is like watching the collective initiate itself. It's like the EKG of everybody through expansion, contraction, fear, correction, and rebirth. We are already in the golden timeline. This is the real evolution of value. not just financial, but relational. It is symbolic and sovereign. And the future of Bitcoin and in the broader space of crypto is not just about speculation, but it is the retribalization through microeconomies, the story led currencies and value encoded in culture. And that makes it the perfect vessel for the collective unconscious to project onto. We are moving from the global empire to fractal economies. We will soon start to see the collapse of these monolithic value systems. We're watching the slow disintegration of centralized money, inflation, distrust in fiat, globalism as identity, institutional trust such as governments, banks, media, and the collective unconscious is withdrawing its energy from empire. It no longer believes in the story of centralized value. We will start to see more of the rise of these micro communities with our own currency. Just like in ancient tribes, they had shells, salt, stone, and even ritual tokens as a value markers as a form of exchange. When Rome fell, people didn't vanish. They moved into micro cities such as local villages, fortified towns. They had these little pockets of autonomy. Trade still happened, art still happened, spirituality still evolved, but it wasn't under one giant empire anymore. It became fractal. And history repeats itself. This isn't our first rodeo, okay? Like, we've been through this. And honestly, we're seeing the same thing happen now. You're seeing micro communities, creator economies, DAOs, and soul led businesses rise even more. It is the return of localized power, not just geographically, but energetically. People are building temples in code and currencies and memes, like my Satoshi coin, value in relationships. And we're not just trying to conquer Rome anymore, we're remembering how to live without it. Talking about micro sovereign economies, each with their own coin, own rules, own myths. These aren't just financial systems, they are spiritual and cultural ecosystems. You'll see that creators with their own tokens have access to their teachings, spaces, and content. Communities that are governed consensus, such as DAO. You have value based on contribution, coherence, and not just capital. Currencies that encode belief systems, such as eco coins, maybe regenerative tokens. You're not just part of the wave, but you are an architect of the sacred economy. We are building a soul economy where energy, creativity, and story is more valued. You create a fire-backed currency where your fire, your voice, your rhythm, grid work backs the token. We develop micro temple hubs where real life activation happens, and tokens are a symbol of shared sovereignty. My Satoshi coin, my fun little project, our own way of exchanging. We have our own tool to exchange, and we can be outside the grids, but we can still transact because your reputation equals trust equals currency, not just a gamified clout like a casino, but actually have a utility but soul deep coherence. Satoshi is feminine. She is mythic, playful, subversive, a nod to Satoshi, the masculine founder of Bitcoin. But now Satoshi arrives, the sacred disruptor, the goddess of decentralized creation, the mother of value as beauty. And we're not just flipping the narrative, we're recoding the rhythm and reverence. Okay, now I have one last story. I'm going to tell you about an ancient Andean prophecy spoken across the Amazon and the Inca lineages, the Kogi, and other original keepers of the land. It says that there will come a time when the eagle of the north and the condor of the south will fly together again. And when they do, it will mean the return of balance, peace, and sacred remembering. So the eagle, the north, technology, intellect, masculine, industrial societies, North America and Europe. And then the condor, the south, heart, intuition, earth, wisdom, feminine, ancestral life ways, South America, the Andes, Amazon. For 500 years, the eagle dominated colonization, extraction, empire building. The Pope specifically is key in this. This is literally happening right now. So the eagle, US, north, and then the condor, south, are now joined in the person of the Pope, but even more so in the grid activation happening now in the Americas. This is the Rainbow Bridge. This is us rebalancing the global consciousness by aligning hemispheres, sacred sites, and the inner polarities. My work is to activate your philosopher's stone so you can draw the sword of time and create. And that's why in my fire series masterclass, the cross of time, solstices and equinoxes are the beating heart. This is the stone of being. You are anchoring joy and clarity and sovereignty. So when you have these two hemispheres, you are bridging the collective wound. The word as alchemy. So when you speak, it builds worlds. There is so much more I can tell you, especially when it comes to grid working. It's literally piercing the vein of this esoteric geopolitics that's the spiritual infrastructure behind the empire and evolution. There's a greater story behind it. It's grid mechanics, real occult infrastructure. If you think there's geopolitics here, there's also geopolitics in the quantum field. Whatever we see in our present day in 3D is a byproduct of what happens in the spirit. We are now standing at a threshold, and you're ready. There are plenty more things to come, and we are ripping the veil of perception control and mind control. We are standing at a threshold, and you're ready to ignite the next phase. So if you're ready to up-level and collapse more timelines in your life to be in your highest timeline, I created the Fire series. It is a rite of passage. If you have felt outside the system, can sense that there is this energy, have the soul of the condor and the mind of the eagle, and you're tired of the hustle, you're getting ready to create from truth, rhythm, and sovereignty. You are the bridge, and the Fire series, I made it specifically for this time for the ascension of everybody, the flame at the center of the circle. If you are an intuitive creator, builder, those who sense that there is something more, I hope that you join me. If you made it this far, you are the real one, you are the chosen one, the 144K volunteer. Go sit in the earth today. Ask where your wings are still divided. Light a candle. Speak to the part of you that remembers sacred time. The Fire series begins. We're not just building businesses, we are restoring lost timelines. We're walking between the grid lines of the empire and memory. This is for the ones that feel the earth speaking through your work, your rhythm, your resistance to grind culture. We are the new architects, and we are creating a handshake between the old and the future. The fire is how we begin. Thank you so much for watching. I have linked everything down below. Make sure that you subscribe to our newsletter for more self-mastery content. And lastly, don't forget, you are divinely guided and you're always provided. I love you. I am God. I am sovereign and I am free. Until next time, peace.